Good morning, Seller Sessions. I am Isabella Hamilton, CEO of Rank Bell, and I have with me today the wonderful Mr. Travis Ziegler. Good morning.
Good morning, Isabella. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, my pleasure. I remember when I met you, I was so fascinated by what you do because I am an dry eye sufferer, and it's been many years that I had this issue, and that's why I remember when I met you, you're like a savior. So it was just a good connection to have, and not always talk about Amazon, but some real stuff that people go through day-to-day basis. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into more of all the wonderful things that you do, Travis.
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Travis Ziegler. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called I Love. We make products that help people heal their dry eyes naturally. And so we don't like the prescription drug route, drops and everything. We actually had an event in our life where we're Western medicine trained doctors, and we had an event where Western medicine failed us and Eastern medicine came through for us. And so that kind of shook us to our core. And we kind of asked ourselves, what could we do for dry eye sufferers that we learned on this Eastern medicine journey? And that's how we came out with our book. We wrote a book called Rethinking Dry Eye Treatment. We have a boot camp called the Dry Eye Boot Camp Challenge. And we've taken tens of thousands of people through our book, through our boot camp. And what we found is we give them a survey before and after the boot camp. The results that they have are better than any prescription drug on the market. And so it's really made us shift our life to really serving that dry eye sufferer to really help more. And then, as you know, is when you serve people, people start becoming attracted to you and wondering how you're doing it. And so that led us to the creation of our ads agency called Profitable Pineapple Ads Agency. And we help people with Amazon PPC, with Amazon DSP, and then also with Google Ads to Amazon listings as well. And so that was a result of focusing on the two things that we do well, is providing value for people, so audience creation and content creation. And then we did Amazon PPC really well in I Love. And then that translates over to teaching people that in the agency and helping them with that along their way. So that's kind of my whole story of about probably an hour long in about 2 minutes.
I love that. No, it's you summarize it very well. So how did you even decide to go into the eye space, and did you have this dry eye issue as well, or how did you even discover the other ways to heal this? Because I haven't been able to heal my issue.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I hope you get to read my book. So, Rethinking
Yeah.
Dry Eye Treatment. It's on Audible, it's on Kindle, it's on paperback, it's on everything. So, it's a great question, and I went into college just not knowing what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into the medical field, but I wasn't sure what, and so I was thinking either optometry or OBGYN. I didn't want to go to school for another 15 years, so I chose optometry, and I also worked for my uncle who's an optometrist when I was in school. And once I graduated from optometry school, I actually started working for him. And as any entrepreneur knows, you can't really work for somebody else. It kind of drives you crazy. And so we worked for my uncle for about 4 years. My wife is my and she graduated a year after me in optometry school. And we worked for my uncle for about 4 years. And he had a dry eye clinic, but that's not really where my dry eye interest peaked. We actually moved from Columbus, Ohio to South Carolina and opened up 2 practices and started our entrepreneur journey that way. And we wanted to start a pediatric practice for those that don't know pediatrics, kids. And so that's what our goal was. But God had other plans and threw African American elderly females at us. And we had a lot of them. And with the African American population, it has a lot of diabetes, especially in South Carolina, a lot of diabetes, a lot of high blood pressure, and a ton of dry eye. And so with that, we created this dry eye clinic, and we were selling dry eye products, and all the dry eye products we were selling were other brands. And so we kind of thought to ourselves, why can't we come out with our own brand around this dry eye problem to help serve these dry eye patients? And when you serve a dry eye patient, it's like no other patient, because once you solve their dry eye, you give them their life back. They're able to drive again. They're able to work again. They're able to be comfortable again. And so it's not a small problem that's just that you don't hear much about. There's about 40 million people just in America. And like I said, when you solve that dry eye for someone and you give them their life back, the testimonials are amazing. And so you're making a huge impact in somebody's life. And so that's what really got us into the dry eye space. And what made us start coming out with products is one of the products we were selling. We wanted to make them our own, but this is kind of what sparked the idea. Is one of the products that we were selling changed their price from $30 a month to $300 a month. And a patient came up to us and said, "You're an entrepreneur, figure this problem out and come out with your own brand." And so we did. And we met with somebody 3 days later, and we were in manufacturing 7 days later. And our product is by far the most superior on the market. And I don't just say that because I sell it. I say that because we've tested it against everything else on the market. And it's so a lot of the products that are similar to ours have bleach as a byproduct, and so ours does not. And so why did I get into the dry eye space? Because the impact that it can make on others. That's kind of the long answer short.
I know it's so niche, which is why I asked, because there are a lot of doctors out there, and I tested a few because I have that issue, and every single night I go to bed I have to put this like super thick ointment in because I never want to experience that pain again. I don't even know if I take a break if it will happen again, but I'm so scared that it would happen that I just like carry it with me everywhere I go. So to be able to heal, and I don't know, is that even something that you can actually heal for life, or is this a treatment that you have to continuously do every single day?
So yours is a little different. So yours is what's called a RCE, or a recurrent corneal erosion. And I think I talked to you a little bit about
Mhm.
Muro, which is the ointment that you should switch to versus an artificial tear. And it's something that does heal, but it takes like 4 to 6 months to heal.
Mhm.
And so it takes a long time to heal. And you felt the pain. And so you don't ever want it to come back.
Right.
And so some say that, I think you even told me this, that it's worse than childbirth.
Yeah,
Is the pain that you experience from
absolutely.
this problem. So um, if you don't mind doing the ointment at night, it's no big deal, but it should heal within 4 to 6 months. But yeah, the fear of it happening again is huge,
Yeah.
and it's worth it just to put a little bit of ointment in right before you go to bed and let it protect itself.
Yeah, I definitely don't ever want that to happen again. So um it's definitely a pain that I've never experienced. It usually takes me out for like 3 4 days. Like
Yep.
it takes me out. I cannot do anything. I cannot be even out of the bed. It's pretty bad. So that's why I was so excited when I met you, because you were giving me all this like data behind it a little bit. So what made you go from like the Western to the Eastern medicine? Because you are, a scientist and a doctor. So how was that transition, and were you able to mix both, or you just decided to go one way more than the other?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of kind of what we've created, is that we do have both. So I think there's a great combination in medicine when you combine Western and Eastern medicine. But I think a lot of people forget that Western medicine was mostly made for, things that happen to us, emergency situations, urgent situations. And now, unfortunately, it is our whole healthcare system. And so we've kind of forgotten about that preventative medicine part of things. And most of the time, we're just treating it with drugs. And that's due to a broken healthcare system where pharmaceutical companies, tout their products down doctors' throats and are always in the offices. When the doctors don't make as much money, the pharmaceutical companies don't make as much money when we tell you to eat spinach or to drink more water. And so there's a good combination, though, when you combine the two and do a lot of Eastern medicine with the Western medicine help. But if you do Eastern medicine and follow it, then you can pretty much get rid of the Western medicine side. We've seen this with thousands of patients, that when you start to live a better lifestyle, you, number one, feel better, you think better, you sleep better. And then you also start to eliminate your medications for diabetes, for high blood pressure, for high cholesterol. And of course, do this under the supervision of a doctor, both from Eastern and Western medicine. So, to go back to your question, what made us kind of shift is we were diagnosed with infertility. We were told we could not have kids. And when we tried everything under the Western medicine umbrella, it pretty much failed. And finally, they said to us, you can do IVF, in vitro fertilization, which is a very intense procedure. And you have about a 10 to 20% chance of getting pregnant. And the day of our IVF appointment, we pretty much said, no, we're not going to do this. Let's explore other routes. So we battled infertility for 3 years. And then after that 3 years, we switched to Eastern medicine and got pregnant in 3 months. And so that's when it really shook us, was that if this Western medicine thing didn't work for 3 years, and that's all we were trained in optometry school, and then Eastern medicine worked for 3 months, why don't we try this for dry eye sufferers. And that's when everything from the book to the boot camp challenge to all our products came out. And so
Wow.
it's funny because the challenges in life, you can say this is happening to me or it's happening for me. And when you figure out the for me part, like, why did this happen? Why did this infertility part happen? Why didn't it go as planned? It pretty much opened up a whole nother business and a whole nother impact side that we probably never would have explored if if we got pregnant right away. And if we were pregnant right away, I would have never started a business online. And so there's so many things that from that challenge happened as a result that I wouldn't be here today. I don't practice anymore. I haven't practiced in 3 years, and I focus full time online. And that wouldn't have happened. And I have freedom now if I didn't go through those challenges. So whenever you're coming across a challenge in life, think of how this is happening for me. And trust me when I say the challenges that I've gone through and my wife and I have gone through, I hope nobody ever has to go through, because we've lost a child, unfortunately. We've lost our entire life savings. And so those are two things that you can really play victim. I mean, why is this happening to me? But we figured out, why is this happening for me? And when you think that way, you can get through those challenges. Are there hard times still? Of course, when you look back at them, but it's it just helps you shift to kind of figure out, why is this happening in my life and what can I learn from this?
I love the mentality around it because this is basically my mantra in life, and it's very hard for some people to really understand this because they don't want to be responsible in a sense. If they say, if they give their power away to something else, like, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh, my boss is just a mean person, or my neighbors are just terrible neighbors. It's We give our power away to all these other people or sources or whatever, and then we never take the time to really bring that in and say, okay, well, maybe it's happening for me. And what can I learn from this moment? What, of course, I had a lot of things happen to me in this life. I moved from Romania. I had no money. I could have said, oh my God, poor me. My government sucks, or this is terrible. Like, but I said, okay, these are facts, right? This is still happening, and it's bad, or for some people worse. But what can I do about it? How do I feel about it, and how can I change it? Because once you realize that you have the power to change your life, this is when a light bulb goes off. It's like, okay, so maybe my boss is a mean person, but that's just who he is. So why would I ever let myself follow that path? And it's just that switch in mindset that really takes you to the next level. And of course, losing a child is probably the worst thing that could ever happen to you. So of course, when something tragic like that happened, you think, wow, like, I am really damned in this life. Like, it didn't happen to my friends. Why is it happening to me? But from all the lessons that I learned in this lifetime, I realized that it all happens for you, for whatever that reason is, for you to continue your life. Like you said, you would have probably never had your agency now, or you probably would have never done all the other million great things that you're doing. And it is a blessing in disguise, and it's almost bad to talk about it, but because it's like, how can that something that bad create something so good? But we all humans, and we all live a life, and this is just our path. But I think what you do is great. Tell us a little bit about you helping so many people for free. I know you do that because you really have compassion and empathy for people. So how did that start?
Yeah, so that actually started in optometry school. So optometry school in 2007, we went on a trip to Ecuador, and it was my first international trip other than the Bahamas, but my first trip I ever left the United States. And we went to this rural area in Ecuador where, the average income for middle class is $1,500 to $2,000 a year. And so most of these people aren't even middle class. And just going into that situation and helping, there's nothing like putting on a pair of glasses on someone and seeing them see for the first time. And an example of one example I give is in Jamaica. I actually give two examples from Jamaica. One is a fisherman. A fisherman is a fisherman their whole life until they can no longer take the fishing. I can't even think right now, but the fishing line and line the hook. And so when you can't line the hook anymore, you pretty much are out of a job and you become a beggar and you don't produce for society. And now you're just kind of taking from society just to survive. Now, if you put a pair of reading glasses on this person, they can now line that hook again, get back to work, produce for their family instead of being a beggar and start contributing to society again. So that's one of the simplest examples because everybody over the age of 40 will need reading glasses eventually. It's a natural part of life. And so it's not something that we can prevent yet. There are drops that are in research stages that are actually looking pretty promising. But right now, it's a pair of reading glasses that you find over the counter. There are almost 1 billion people blind in this world due to a lack of glasses. And so if you throw a pair of readers on them, that usually solves their problem.
Wow,
Now, again,
changes their whole life.
it changes their entire life. They can read again. They have purpose again in life. And then the second example I give is we had last time we went to Jamaica, which was 2019. We had the manager. We stayed at a Sandals resort because the Sandals Foundation is their charitable leg, and they help put these clinics together for us. And then we stay at Sandals or beaches or whatever. And the manager of that Sandals came in, and he was about 25 years old. And he said, a mission you guys did 13 years ago when I was 12 years old changed my life. I was into drugs. I was into gangs. I didn't care about school, and I didn't get good grades. And my mom took me to one of your clinics, got me a pair of glasses, and I couldn't even see further than my hand in front of my face. And when I was able to see again, I got out of the gangs, got out of the drugs, started getting very studious in school because I could see. And then now he's the manager at Sandals at the age of 25. And so that was one of those stories that it was cool to see because it had been 13 years since we started these mission trips. And we got to see the fruits of that labor of 13 years later. But going back to the Ecuador trip, what really solidified it for me, this is back in 2006 or 7, is there's a guy that came in with a bright red eye and he had glaucoma. Glaucoma is where the pressure inside your eye is high. And so it causes a lot of pain, headaches, and blindness eventually. And unfortunately, the eye was blind, but he was in a tremendous amount of pain. And he was this hard-nosed farmer from Ecuador. And I stopped his pain because I brought his pressure down. And he started crying, got down on his knees, gave me a hug, and pretty much said, God bless you, God bless you. And then I started crying. And that was like the moment my life changed. And I knew that these missions are where I wanted to be. And now with this online business, with not practicing anymore full time or at all, I can now go on 2 to 3 of these a year. And we go to Jamaica every October. We go to somewhere in Central or South America every spring. And we go to another Caribbean island in the summer. And so we get to do that now as a result of this business. And this business helped to start a charity. And we donate money from our businesses to our charity, both from the agency and from iLove to that charity. And then that charity helps put these missions on, helps us go to the mission trips. We also get to donate. We got to donate 2,000 pairs of sunglasses to Mexico the other year. And we got to build an exam lane down in Jamaica. And so that's what we can do as a result of this business. And so Ecuador is what hooked me in overall. But once you go on a mission trip, and I invite anybody to reach out to me, and please, if you want to go on a mission trip, come with us because it's awesome. And we get to stay at a Sandals. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, Sandals is very nice. That was actually my very first international trip one after I moved to US. So from Romania, US was my first place to even travel to, like first time taking the plane. And then once I was in the US, it was like 3 years in, and I remember I wanted to just go somewhere fun. I wanted to like experience life. I had a little money by then, a tiny bit. And Jamaica was the first place I went to, Sandals. So it's definitely a beautiful resort. And it's just so beautiful what you've done, because a lot of people, we all want to make more, that feeling of, okay, I want to make more money. I want to help my family. I want to create a better financial future for me. And it's like this race all the time, and it's never really fulfilling. It's people keep putting that number higher and higher. Okay, I want $1 million. I want 5. I want 10. And they get to all these places and they're like, I am not fulfilled. What is going on here? And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you have found a way to give back and fulfill that space, right? I mean, just helping people, like you said, you just started crying when you were able to help that person. Like that
And
is just,
for the record, my wife would tell you that I don't cry that often.
well, I would believe her. I don't know you for that long, but I take your word for it. But it's really special. Like this is a long-term goal that I have. I'm very ambitious, and I, of course, just like every other entrepreneur, I want my business to grow. But I've been starting to think lately, for about a year or so, like, where is it that I'm going? Like, how can I help those around me? What is it that I can do to leave a legacy and to be able to provide help and support to those who may not have the opportunities that I have? I mean, I have an opportunity of making in this life by the simple fact that I'm white, or that I'm a woman in some cases. It's like, yes, we all can create our life. And trust me, I am definitely the number one person to tell you that you can create your own reality. But, I cannot be blind to the fact that there are some things that, we are born with, that we are more blessed than others. The fact that I was born in Romania and maybe not in Ecuador, on in some village. There are different things that have brought me to where I am right now. So what is it that we can do to help our our world? I mean, we are all humans, we're all a species, we're all connected. So seeing it's truly unbelievable. So what made you pick these countries, and are you willing to expand to possibly to other places once obviously COVID is done, if it's ever going
Yeah,
to be done?
we love Jamaica. Jamaica is where like our heart is. That's where we love to go to. We love the Jamaican people. We have a foundation there. That's why we always go to Jamaica. And Jamaica is just we have a lot of friends there now that are actually in Jamaica, that are from there, that live there. And so that's why we love going there every October. It's kind of like our reset. And it's very comfortable for us. Whereas in the other two are always uncomfortable because, Central and South America, we don't know the languages very well. And so that affects things. But no, we have no, we don't care where we go. It's just a matter of making an impact. And so we want to put Asia on the docket eventually, like Vietnam, Laos, and like all those countries down there that need a lot of help. We also want to look at Eastern Europe, and so Eastern Europe needs a lot of help too, and then Africa. And so those are all areas that, they're not in our wheelhouse right now because we have young kids, and flying around the world is a lot harder when you have young kids. So we try to stay local to our time zones because it's easier to communicate with the kids when we need to. It's easier to talk to them, of course, with video chat, and then also it's easier to get home fast if you need to. So we had an emergency at the last Jamaican mission trip where we had to fly home like within 6 hours. And so we were able to get on a bus. They took us back to the resort. We packed up, got to the airport, and we literally walked up to the counter and said, we need to get home as fast as possible. They had a first class flight only. And so we jumped on it. We literally ran to the flight, got on, and we actually left some of our medical equipment behind, and the team took care of it. And we got home in time for this emergency to play out. And so we got there in time to help it. So
Wow.
right now, we're staying in our time zone within probably 5-hour flight. But overall, no, we're not limited to certain countries. I do want to go back to something you were talking about, though.
Yeah, go ahead. I know, I
You're
just want to ask you like a million questions because I'm so like excited and curious. Go ahead.
So I want to go back to talking about like entrepreneurs. We want to make more. We want to do more. And I think what made us a little different is that we switched it on our head. So what we usually do as an entrepreneur is we learn, and then we earn, and then we start to teach others. And then after we teach others and make all our money, then we start to focus on that impact. And where my wife and I did it a little differently is we focused on impact as number one, and impact on dry eye sufferers, impact on the world with the 1 billion that are blind due to lack of glasses. So those are our two missions in life, and we focus on that fully. And so whenever we were making a decision with our business or with our life, does it help that mission? And if it doesn't, then why are we doing it? And so we get caught up in shiny objects as well, not as much anymore, but we focused on the impact that we can make. And the more we focused on the impact and not on the finances, the more money came. And so when you serve other people, focusing on impact, more money is going to come to you as a result because of that. And so when you focus on money, it doesn't come as much. But when you focus on impact, it comes more. So we focused on impact first. We kind of flipped it. I love educating. I was an Ohio State professor before I got into all this. And so I focused on education and teaching others and impact first, whereas in most entrepreneurs do that last. And so when you flip that, your business will grow, you'll make more money, and you'll have more fun in life because you're making other people happy and you're giving other people what they want and what they need as a result. So I just wanted to like touch on that as we were talking about that a little earlier.
This is perfect. This sums it up exactly. I try to work problems backwards. I look at the, you know, where do I want to be and try to work it backwards to the point where one, it makes it easier for everything. So if my goal is to start a foundation and help, blind kids or kids in orphanages in Romania, I get it. It makes sense. Start with that and everything else will follow. um Following question on that, is your all this help that you're doing, are you self-funding it? Because it must be expensive. Well, not only the travel that I'm talking about, like actually providing all these resources, help, glasses. How are you able to do that?
So we kind of collaborate with a lot of charities involved, and those charities do a lot of fundraising. We Our charity is self funded, so it's a foundation, not a charity. So foundations are usually self funded. You can think of probably the wealthiest foundation is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They took billions of dollars of their wealth, gave it to their foundation, and then the foundation does what it does with it. And so that's what we're doing. We don't have billions in our foundation, but with our foundation, we take the money and the profits we earn from the agency and I Love and donate it to the foundation. Now, we do take external donations as well. People have donated to the charity or the foundation, but it's just not as big of an income source. And then on the trips, you'd be surprised by how inexpensive eye care is when you take it outside the US. And so in Jamaica, we can provide a pair of glasses, sunglasses, and an eye exam for around $10 per person. And so it's very inexpensive. We also give them a hat too. And so usually they're farm workers, so we'll give them a hat as well with the sunglasses, glasses, and exam. And then cataract surgery is another thing we do, and that costs about $40 per person. And so it's not as expensive as it is here. So in the United States, cataract surgery is anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. Over there, it's $40. An eye exam and glasses and sunglasses in the United States is anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. Here in the States, it costs about $10 over there. And so it's a lot less expensive. But also, when people come volunteer with us, they usually donate $1,000. It's called a trip fee. It doesn't pay for anything. It just pays to the charity to help with getting glasses, getting equipment over there, and just helping with the charity run. And then they pay for their flight to get over there as well. And so it's a mass conglomeration of a lot of people, a lot of charities all working together to make all this happen.
That takes some logistics to make
I
sure
am
all
I
that
am
is
not the
done,
logistics guy.
and have kids and have a practice when you used to, and all these things. Like, how are you able to manage all of it and still be so peaceful? Or is this not the real Travis that we're seeing right now? How are you so calm and so centered?
No, it's really focusing on routine, and it's very hard. We have a 7-month-old and a 4-year-old, so routine is very hard. But I wake up very early in the morning, 5:15. I get up, and that's like my time. The first hour or two of the day is my time, and that's when I exercise. That's when I try to meditate. Try because if a kid's up, it's a little harder. I'll drink a lot of water during that time, and usually that's just our time to kind of center ourselves. And I pray during that time, and then a team. Your team is huge. And the agent, so I built kind of backwards. I Love was built on us doing everything. And then we slowly started adding people, which is a very common entrepreneur thing to do. But I wasn't afraid to delegate, and I'm still not. And if you're afraid to delegate, you're never going to grow to where you want to be. And the problem we made with I Love is we did too much. We still delegated a lot, and we still delegate a lot today, but we still do too much in I Love. And so when I built the agency, I wanted to build it so it didn't rely on me. And when I come in, it's kind of a bonus. And so the agency could run without me, and it could probably grow without me, but I'm still there to kind of help out things. I do things like this with you, is I do interviews on other people's podcasts, on Facebook Lives like this one, YouTube. I also do the YouTube channel, so I do videos for that. That's kind of our number one source of traffic, is from our YouTube channel. And then also I still jump on sales calls every once in a while. I don't do them all, but I do certain ones. I kind of pick and choose. And then we have another salesman in training that also manages accounts. But I do not manage a single account. And you don't want me to manage a single account, because I don't do the account in I Love either. And so I just get to oversee and see big picture. And so when I'm analyzing my week on what to do, it's mostly looking at reports and meeting with people and establishing relationships with people like yourself. And so external from the organization, also internal as well. And so trying to get speaking gigs. We were talking before we got on, and my wife and I just spoke at the Capitalism Conference here in Austin. And that was a dream of ours 5 years ago when we first went to it. And we got to fulfill that dream this year. I actually wanted to start speaking on stages at the beginning of 2020. And then, of course, COVID hit, and I've done a lot of virtual stages as a result. And that was my first time getting up on stage as a presenter that was asked to speak before the conference started. So it was a lot of fun. You saw me at BDSS, as far as getting up on stage and presenting my ninja hack for Amazon sellers. And I got to take home 120 pounds of $50 coins. It was a great time. My son loved it. But yeah, so going back to your question, routine and also team. Team is so big. And I think I have an advantage there with the team thing, because I'm a doctor. And so owning my own practice as a doctor, I'm not going to be answering the phones, scheduling appointments, pre-testing patients. My job is to interpret data and then tell the patient what that data means and what we're going to do about it. And that's your job as the CEO and entrepreneur. Is your job is to look at the data and meet with the team to figure out what we want to do with that data. And that's the advantage I had as a doctor, is I learned that very early, because to grow and scale a practice, you cannot do everything. You have to be able to just focus on what you're trained to do, and everything else can be done by somebody else. And so that's kind of the advantage I have there.
Beautiful. I want to read some of these comments that we have. Ivo is asking, "Hey, Dr. Travis, are your glasses on the UK market?"
They're not anymore. And so we had sunglasses that were on the UK market, but it's not sunny in the UK or in any Europe. So
I
we
just got
sold,
back from Europe. I
yeah,
can
we sold
attest
in
to that.
June. June was all we sold, and then it would sell like at one a day, maybe the rest of the year.
Wow. Michael says, "Good show, guys. Rich in content and heartwarming,
Thank
of
you.
course." And Miss Marie, "Impact first, money follows." Completely agree with that. I'm so glad when people tune in and they are able to tell us like live how they're feeling. It always makes my day. So it's so good. There's one thing that I read on your website, and it says it talks about you talk about the ability of the body to heal itself. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that's what our whole book is about, so, in our boot camp challenge. So if you're suffering from dry eye, or actually any disease for that matter, go to dryeyebootcampchallenge.com. So dry eye like EYE, bootcampchallenge.com, and just sign up. It's free. You just put your email address in, and then you get pretty much a weekly email every Sunday that has doesn't have a video anymore. It used to have a video, but it has just a weekly to do. It's so simple, and it starts out incredibly simple. So drinking 16 ounces of water right when you wake up every morning, and then an hour before every meal. That just conscious effort, or just keeping a water bottle. You've seen me drink throughout this episode. Keeping a water bottle by you, and whenever you think drink, 88% or 90% of us are dehydrated. And so most of us are tired at noon and at 1 o'clock, and it's mostly because of dehydration. And so instead of grabbing that extra cup of coffee, grab that 16 ounce of water, chug it, see if you still want that coffee, 30 minutes later. Usually we're just dehydrated. And so the second thing is, replace your breakfast with a green smoothie. A green smoothie being spinach, some berries, avocado. Most people think that sounds disgusting. Spinach actually has no flavor. And so when you make a smoothie out of it, and we have tons of smoothie recipes. So if you want one, just reach out to me here on Facebook or email me. I can give you guys my email address later on. But replacing your breakfast with a green smoothie, because almost every breakfast food out there is inflammatory. And so bagels, donuts, bacon, sausage, cereal is especially inflammatory. Dairy is inflammatory. So Greek yogurt, milk, all of that is inflammatory to your system, which will then cause more disease. And so replacing your breakfast with a green smoothie, those are kind of our first two tips. I'm not going to get into the whole diet thing, but just kind of avoid processed foods. Anything in a box or can is usually processed. And then eat organic when you can. Pesticides and fertilizers are terrible. They're causing cancer. They're causing all sorts of problems, ADHD in kids. That's the big problem that we're having in our generation is pesticides and fertilizers in food. And if you go over to Europe, Europe's actually smart. They've gotten rid of most of that. But eating organic whenever you can is so key. And you'd be surprised by how much better you'll feel when you switch to organic only. And then we talk about stress a lot. So staying off your phone, computer, and any device, TV, at least an hour before you go to bed, because that's going to decrease your stress levels. It's going to decrease your blue light exposure. Blue light from your screens actually prevents melatonin from being produced. And so melatonin production helps you sleep and fall asleep faster. So when you have your device right in front of your face, right before you go to bed, your melatonin's not coming up. It's actually staying suppressed and staying down. And so it's going to be harder for you to go to sleep. You're not going to sleep as deep or as well. And so with that being said, with your devices, turn it onto airplane mode and then put it away from your stand. So we have it in another room, and that does two things. It makes us not, wake up to notifications, number one. It makes us not check our phone in the middle of the night, number two, because then we're going to decrease that melatonin production. And then number three, when the alarm goes off from our phone, it makes us get out of bed and go get it. And so that's kind of a sleep hack / stress hack. Some more stress things that you can do is write down 3 things you're grateful for every single day. We focus so much on negative, and we watch the news, which is all negative, and stop watching the news, number one. But then at night, just what 3 things went well today? What 3 things are you grateful for? I'm grateful for being able to talk to you, because what a cool world that we can talk. You're from Romania. I'm from Ohio. You now live in LA. I live in Austin, Texas, and we get to chat about this online. And it's just it's a cool phenomenon, and we just take that for granted. I'm grateful for the clean water I get to drink, because even people in Romania don't have clean water to drink. And so just being grateful for the little tiny things, like I don't know, being able to journal, being able to write, just things like that. And so gratitude is huge. What else? I think that's kind of like the whole boot camp and book in a nutshell, but we go into depth about like what to eat and more things that you can do for stress, like meditation. Like yin yoga is one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, it's yoga, but you hold poses for 3 to 5 minutes, which is almost
Intense.
harder. It's harder than meditation, I think.
Yeah. Interesting. I've never heard of that. I would love to start practicing that. I actually it's one of the things that I wanted to get back into. I used to do hot yoga, which is
Mhm.
mostly for, working out, but it one, I looked the best when I did it, and two, I felt the best. I felt like my body was just more flexible, and when you feel in your body, you also feel better in your mind. You're able to create more. You're more creative. You're more energetic. It's all related. So when did you discover meditation?
Meditation. Oh man, it was probably the entrepreneur journey. Like in
Mhm.
2015, when I started this whole journey of starting our 2 practices and starting the online space, I used to wake up every morning. I'd go right to what most people do, right? Flip on the TV, Good Morning America, Today Show, watch that, eat breakfast, get ready for work, then go to work. And it wasn't really serving me. And I think it was when I read The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. It's an amazing book that will really reshape your morning routine and kind of give you a sense of what to do instead of just kind of winging it. And the key thing is you don't need 3 hours to do all this stuff. And so I'm trying to think of his is like silence, affirmations. I forget his little acronym for it, but um, meditation, and then there's exercise, reading, and scribing. Savers. That's what is silence, affirmations, visionaries, reading, scribing and exercise. Yeah, it's all in there right there in my head. But my exercise that I do first thing in the morning is I call it my 250. It's 250 reps of anything. And so it can be 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 squats, 50 dips, and I just do 250 of that. And that usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes depending on what I'm doing. And then if I have time, or then I'll meditate for about 5 minutes or so, just 5 minutes. That's all I try to do. And if I go longer, that's great. If I don't, that's okay too. And then I'll do a longer exercise if I can. And so then I'll go for a run or a bike ride if it's light out, and I'll listen to something. And so I'm listening to an audiobook, listening to a podcast. And then after that, I'll write down how my day is going to go or what I'm going to be doing that day or what I learned from that podcast or something like that. And what we've kind of done with the 7-month-old, because he usually gets up at 5:30 to 6 o'clock and it's unpredictable, is I'll actually take him on my run with me. So he'll be in the stroller and we'll kind of run around. And that gives my wife time to do her morning routine before the 4-year-old gets up. And then by the time I get back with the 7-month-old, then everything's kind of going and in sync. So um, I think the Miracle Morning was that big thing back in 2016 is probably when I read that.
That sounds like a beautiful, perfect routine that you came up with.
That
Um,
doesn't go perfectly every day.
right. But we try, right? But
Yep.
with meditation, I feel like people are so scared of it. And I remember I used to have the same thing. I was like, oh, I can't meditate. My mind just goes to all these places and I can't sit still. And then people just don't do it because they feel like it's something outside of them that's not something they can achieve. They probably try it once and they're like, okay, it's not working, but it's the practice that eventually gets you there, right? Like, how would you explain to somebody that's never meditated?
It's called a meditation practice for a
Right.
reason because you never get it down and you're always I mean, this morning my mind was nuts. I couldn't settle down, and every time I started settling it down, it just went nuts again. And so it's always a practice. So when I start my meditations, it's always in prayer. And so I pray, and I usually have a very consistent prayer that I do every single day. And then I may pray for things that happened or for individuals that I've met along the way that need prayer. And then after that, this is the hardest part, is the silent part. The silence part is listening, and it's hard for us entrepreneurs to just sit there and listen. And when you listen, that's when your ideas will start to come to you. And so you'll start to breathe and focus on your breath. You've heard that. Another one I've heard is focus on light coming down into you, going through your body, down to your toes, through your other toes, and going back out. That's another way you can just keep following that light. That's another way that I've heard instead of breath work, if the breath work doesn't work for you. But if your mind goes crazy, don't be mad at yourself. Just say, okay, I hear your thoughts. Go away now. I'm trying to think, or I'm trying to be silent, and
Mhm.
just keep working on it. And I'm still terrible at it, but I got good at it before our latest baby was born. But now I'm back to normal and normal entrepreneur meditation. But yeah, it's just a matter of finding that routine and maybe just having mantras. Even mantras work. So just kind of repeating
Mhm.
something over and over again.
Mm. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the way I explain it to people is just if thoughts come to you, it's absolutely normal. You can just sit there with your eyes closed and not have thoughts. But I just say every time you move away from, okay, I'm meditating, and then you're like, oh, and I did this yesterday, and I have to do this. Just remember you're meditating, and it's like, okay, now I'm back. I'm back. And then you start breathing again. And then again, your mind will wander. So this will happen a lot, but then one day it's going to happen less and less and
Mhm.
less. So it's not like if you're sitting down right now and you're going to be able to meditate and not think of anything. That will be impossible. Like that's not even okay to think. But the more you do it, the more you will get to a point where it will be easier. And these thoughts will still come because you're still human. You still have a brain that's overly active all the time. So it's not a matter of pushing those thoughts away, but more like, okay, thank you, I see you. Now let me come back to centering myself and being in the present. And then again, your mind wanders because it's what it does. And then you just keep bringing it back, keep bringing it back. That's how I meditate.
So have you heard of the Muse headband?
I have not.
So I had the Muse headband for about a year. I got rid of it once our new child was born just because I stopped using it because I didn't have time for it. But I'll probably buy one again once I have the time to do it. But the Muse headband is actually a headband that goes around your
Mhm.
forehead and it has sensors, and it has sensors behind your ear. And they actually have a sleep one that actually connects to your full head. And what it does is it plays like a storm when your mind's crazy, and then the storm will calm down as your mind starts to settle, and it's measuring different types of waves. So you have your alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and different waves correlate with different states of meditation. And eventually, if you're in that storm state, you can get it to calm down, and then the storm will calm so much that these birds will appear. And when the birds appear, that's when you're getting into that, I think it's the gamma and delta waves, and that's when you're in that pure meditative state. And so the problem is that when you get the birds to appear, it then distracts you. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm in the meditation zone. And then all of a sudden you're back to, the storm
Ah,
coming in, and you're
yeah.
just, it teaches you, it really trains your brain though, to figure out how to get to that state. And it was great. So I got to a point with the Muse that I could do and get to the birds and sit in the bird state for like 30 minutes.
Oh my
And
God.
that's what Muse did for me though, is it helped train me to learn the different states my brain was in. It's gone now because I haven't done it in so long, but
Yeah.
a Muse headband is actually a very good way to help with that, and to help kind of figure out your different states of your brain waves. And I would recommend that to anybody that wants to get into meditation, and just practice it every single day if you can.
Wow, technology.
It's
I
great.
You'll go back in time and tell Boo that, oh, so we came up with this, cool headband that we can basically replicate what you worked for years and years to achieve. Yeah, it's a pretty great world we live in. We literally have everything at our hands today. Like, how blessed are we to be able to have really everything we want?
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
that's
something to be grateful for.
exactly, write it down every single day, and if you have a roof over your head, I mean, if you have a dollar in your pocket, you're richer than, like, 90%, 99% of the world or something like that.
Yeah. And it's something that, we all go through different things in life, whether it's business, whether it's family, whether it's your neighbor or your boss. And it's zooming out. That's the way I see it. It's like zoom out and see how far you are in life, like how you're healthy, you have family, like you said, you're able to watch us on probably your phone or your laptop. Like that is, you are in such a good position to be just by this simple fact. But of course, when we're running around and we think the world sucks and it's all happening to me, and it's like, it's just a matter of, like, just like meditation, like, okay, I am back, let me center, let me actually see what's going on. Yeah, all these bad things are happening, but let me see from the outside view, like how blessed we are. And for me, I feel like maybe it comes easier than to other people because I've seen, I grew up in Romania and
Yeah.
I know what it was like. And even though it was many, many years ago, it's not something I can just shake off and like put away and never think about it again. It's something that's with me daily. And I appreciate that. Like every time I see the ocean, I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I was driving yesterday from LA to San Diego, and there's a part where you just like you go around the corner and you kind of see the ocean coming up, and I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, how can you not be thankful? Like I grew up in such a small city, never seen water, never seen the sea, never seen an ocean, and it's the little things. And I feel like the more thankful you are, the the better and the faster things will come to you. Just like
Yeah.
you said with your businesses, it's like, what is my passion in life, and how can I be thankful for it, and how can I bring that not only to me and my family, but to those around me? So meditation, it's pretty cool.
When you have that gratitude mindset, it radiates a different frequency to others around
Mhm.
you, and it's gonna attract the people that you need in your life at that moment. And, it's not by happenstance that we just happened to run into each other at BDSS and started talking. And there's something that brought us together at that moment and started talking. And so
Right.
that happens as a result of the frequency that you vibrate in any room. So I have a very strong sense of that. And so I can walk into a room, and when I start to talk to somebody, I can tell if that's going to bring, or I can tell what their energy is, if they're negative or positive. And it's a good and a bad thing. I try to turn it off, but it sometimes is on all the time. But you can kind of feel that radiation and that frequency that people emit. And you get that by tapping into meditation, by tapping into being gracious and having that gratitude. And I want to go back to something else you were talking about too. And have you ever heard of The Gap in the Gain by Dan Sullivan?
I have, but I have not read it.
Okay, so The Gap and Gain is actually a good book. He just actually released the book like a week ago, but it's a concept that he's had around for like 20 years. And the problem as entrepreneurs is we're always focusing on the gap. The gap is I'm here, I need to get there. And how do I get there? And then by the time I get there, there's a new gap. And there's always this gap that you can never quite accomplish and get to. Whereas if you focus on the gain and look back on your life and see what you've accomplished, you'll always be happy. And
Mm.
so the gain is a reflection. And so what I do with this is every quarter I have a reflection day. Not really a reflection day, just a reflection half hour. I have a document in Google that I go through all the accomplishments that happened that quarter. And I have my Google Calendar up and I have my Google Doc up. And I just go through week by week on my Google Calendar just to see what happened. And I put that, it's either an accomplishment or a gratitude or something fun that I did. And I'll put it in this document and then I read that whole document. And
Mm.
so I do that for 30 minutes every single quarter. And that focuses on that gain, the things that we've already accomplished and the things that have made us happy. And so that makes us focus on doing that more. And that will make us happy in the future. And so instead of focusing on, I want to get my business to $1 million, I want to get my business to $5 million, I want to get my business to $10 million, I want to get it to $100 million, focus on what makes you happy, what you need to get there, and then everything else will be put in place. We know our exact number that we need to live this life in our fullest capacity, and it's not as high as most people think. Most people think I want to make 10 million. I want to sell my business for 50 million. And it's just like, why? What are you trying to accomplish with that? And you can live an extravagant lifestyle on $5 million invested making 10%. And that's a very extravagant lifestyle. You can make a pretty good life with $1 million invested making 10%. It's $100,000 a year. You can live a pretty great life on that. So know your number one. And there's a good book called Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins that walks you through an exercise to figure out your number. Ours, we know our exact number, but then also focus on reflecting every quarter on what you've accomplished in that quarter and really feeling it and being in gratitude about it.
I'm gonna have to go back to this video and watch it once a week because you've given me so much, like not only the books, but you were talking about the yoga practice, and so I definitely need to go back and take some notes myself. I really love that, and I can tell you're just so at peace with yourself. Like I'm very highly receptive as well of energies, and I think that's why we connected so well. And you just have like this calmness about you, the fact that you are able to accomplish all these things, you're still getting in your reading very much, your meditation, your exercise, and you're also thoughtful about how can I make my wife's life easier. Like you're a well-rounded human being, I would say. Is your baby up?
He's I'm muting myself because he's fussing in the other room.
It happens. Babies are wonderful. I remember when mine was little. It was a lot. But Dr. Travis, you are just an amazing person, and I thank you so much for being here. But before I let you go, I want tell us a little bit about your ads agency. I didn't even get a chance to let you talk about that. So
No,
tell us
that's
a little
okay.
bit about it.
I appreciate the kind words and thanks for having me on and thanks for letting me do this as well. My ads agency is Profitable Pineapple Ads, and everybody asks why did we pick that name, and we have no reason for it, but it's fun.
I
Everything
love
else, everything else is very intense and serious in the Amazon PPC world, so we wanted something a little more fun. I actually did not wear my pineapple shirt or my pineapple hat, which is off to the side here, and so let me actually just grab it real quick. There we go. So this is my Profitable Pineapple hat.
Oh, it's a fun one.
Yeah. So profitablepineapple.com is where you can find us. We help people scale with Amazon PPC, but we do it a little differently. So we focus on customer acquisition. And so we're going to change your mindset about ACOS. We're going to change your mindset about acquiring a customer. And so we work with a lot of supplement companies, a lot of food companies, but that's not just what we're limited to. But I really help shift the entrepreneur into thinking a lot differently around customer acquisition and how much you can really spend on Amazon PPC. To give you an example, in our business, Hydrate and I Love, we go for about 100% ACOS. because we found that to be our sweet spot to help with lifetime value of the customer. And so we kind of figure that out in your business, what ACOS to be going after. And we're not an agency that's going to be going after 10% ACOS. We can do that. We know how to do it. It's just not as fun. And you're not going to grow your business. You're going to keep it right where it is. But with that being said, we have clients that want to focus on profit. And so they do want to go after that 10 to 20% ACOS and just kind of stay where they are, which is fine. But we teach people more about customer acquisition. Like I also said, we do Amazon DSP, which is demand side platform. If you don't know what that is, I'd love to schedule a call with you to just kind of talk about it. We can do that separate from running your PPC. So if you have somebody doing that, we can do your DSP. And then we're kind of just starting Google Ads to your Amazon listing. That's something that we're kind of in beta mode right now in the agency. It's working incredibly well. It shoots your rank up. As you know, external traffic is huge with your software and your business as well. So if you're not driving external traffic to your listing, talk to Isabella or talk to me. So profitablepineapple.com is our website.
I love how you put on your agency hat and you got into the agency mode. Absolutely perfection. I love it. I would like at some point, maybe next year, to have another call again and talk about more about your missions and how far you have gone since then. I know you're kind of stuck right now when it comes to that, right? Because of COVID.
Mhm.
When do you think you can do that again for those who are maybe interested in participating or donating?
Yeah.
How do we find about that?
So ilovecares.org is our charity website. It's not a good website because it's so ignored, but you can donate on that. It just goes through PayPal. But you can reach out to me. I'll put my email in the comments of this video after we're done here.
Okay.
But it's Dr. Travis Ziegler at Gmail. So DrTravis at gmail.com. And then I'd be happy to connect you with where you need to go. And we work with a couple different charities in regards to the mission work, but they are still going on missions. It's just a matter of if the country will accept it or not. And if you don't want to go on an eye care mission, which is probably the most fun, there's other ones where you can go on a dental mission and pull out people's teeth, which I don't recommend. There's also a reading mission, and so you can teach kids how to read and how to use the computers. So that's another mission that we're a big part of. We've never been on one of those, but we help with that organization. And so there's a lot of different facets that you can do. And like I said, this is one of those mission trips that is a good way to ease into mission trips because we stayed at Sandals. And so staying at a Sandals is a lot different because in Ecuador, we stayed at a bunkhouse and I woke up with a frog stuck to my face
Oh,
and I shook scorpions out of my bed at night.
oh,
So those are some missions that we go on too. Those are usually the Central and South America ones. But if we go to the Caribbean, it's usually at a Sandals because we work with Sandals Foundation.
wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, sandals over a bungalow in some deep forest with
Both
scorpions.
are fun in their own way.
Of course, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Travis, for being here with us today. I think everybody will enjoy this video and audio. Thank you again. This was,
Appreciate you having me.
giving your time is so powerful. I think a lot of people take that for granted. Like time is so important. Like we have limited time on earth. So for you to be able to give us 1 hour of your time, just want to tell you how much I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Bye, Travis.